Welcome to JermaineAuNatural. I am Jermaine Ryan, and I would like to welcome you all to April's Black History, a piece every month. This month, I'm not going to talk about a specific person, but I do want to talk about the magnitude, the depth, the richness of our hair. I am rocking a puff because, you know. But the depth and the richness and the usefulness and the multi-purpose ways that our hair is, the magic that is our hair and the many things that it can do and that it's capable of. And specifically, I want to talk about protective styles and kind of dating back to its origins in Africa. And outside of, the very, very, beautiful and artistic ways that the hair was braided, outside of that, and even going a little bit deeper into it, how the way your hair was braided or done or adorned with beads and things like that, how that kind of signified your ranking or your status within your tribe or your people. I want to talk about the usefulness that came into play with our hair. Black people, we've always been a creative people. And even in some of the most down and out times, we will find a way. One of the ways that dates back to slavery that we used our hair was that during the African slave trade or the Atlantic slave trade or Middle Passage, Africans, were on these boats. They were being taken to the Americas and to the islands in the South Americas as slaves. And they were captive. They weren't giving anything. So what Africans were doing, and particularly the women, what they were doing is that they were taking grains of rice, unmulled rice, and different grains and seeds, and they were actually braiding them into their hair. I didn't know this. This was something that wasn't taught in, high school or anything about American, African history in school and stuff like that. They never taught the depths of it. You knew that there was slavery, but they never taught the resourcefulness of the people and how we made it through. Now, if you were to go online and read published books, you might find appropriation happening because the things that were brought over from Africa, watermelon, rice, yams, okra, like everything that was brought over from Africa, the people from Africa planted and they grew. So you might read stories that say that the colonizers were the ones that were teaching the slaves how to plant and grow these things. You can't teach me something that you've never done. You can't teach me what I've already been doing and what my people have been doing for generations. So there are a lot of the appropriation of the people even goes down to just the simplest and basic things. A master is never going to say that, my slave had to teach me how to plant and how to sow and how to fertilize. And from what I did also read and what is also located below is that the slave owners would do is that they would basically put the foods out in front of the people to see, what region they were from or what foods were familiar to them, to give them a bit of comfort. But also those were the people that they would look to show them how to grow these things, to show them how to plant them. And they were using the tools that they used in Africa. So they brought the tools with them. They were the ones cultivating the soil and planting everything and growing it. They were the ones teaching the slave owners how to do this. When you go to the store and you buy the rice, you could just put it into the pot and cook it. Well, the shape that it's in before then, it's kind of still a seed, if you will, where it can be planted and still sprout. So it's unmulled. I think I'm saying that right.
No.
But they would take different grains and seeds, and they would part the hair, put the seeds through that part, and then take another part and then braid on top of that so that the seeds and the grains were hidden within the braids themselves. Genius! We will find a way.
There he is!
Once again, just one of the many ways that our hair is so much more than just hair. And in the history of, African people, how it has really been a saving grace for us. When it came to, us being moved across the transatlantic and in slavery throughout all of those years, the subject has come up as to rice. Where did rice come from? Is rice only from Asia? And it has been found and proven scientifically, and I'll have all of the things that I've looked up, research linked down below so that you can really dig into this yourself. But everything that I've read that has been told by stories of, the folks in these places, like their great grandparents, the legends that have been passed down, the scientific things that have been found where they've taken, different grains and things and scientifically proven that they're linked to Africa, is that outside of the slave labor that was provided, we actually did provide a lot of the essential foods that were used back then and that are still used now, one of those being rice. And it is cited, there are stories that have been told throughout families that because of the braiding of the rice and the hair, when Africans were brought to America and in those southern states, the enslaved Africans were allowed to have their own little plots of land or dooryard gardens where they could grow their own food. They weren't allowed to eat what the masters ate. And a lot of times what would be found in the dooryard gardens of the slaves would be the seeds that they stowed in their hair. A few other things to mention that were brought over from Africa that originated there outside of rice was okra, black-eyed peas, watermelon, castor seeds. Like, there are several other things. Those are just some of the ones that I'm remembering right now. Like, there's a whole list in one of the little articles that I have down below, like a whole list of things they would find in their gardens. And of course, by the slaves also, tending to the fields, they were also the people that were in the house and they were working. And that's where the introduction of, the traditional native African foods were introduced to their tables. Hence, soul food now, gumbo, like all of those things, like a lot of American food culture was shaped by the slaves and the foods that were brought over from Africa and the way that they made them. So another tie that this story has with, braiding of the seeds and the grains into the hair, it also ties it to the Afro-Latino community. Enslaved Africans were taken to more than just the Americas. It was also the islands and even into South America. Another tie that this story has is to specifically Brazil, which there are a lot of historical oral accounts told from generation to generation of the enslaved Africans that came over that had the grains and the rice and the seeds braided into their hair. And that's where a lot of the crops, the grains that are in South America and Brazil specifically, where they originated from, is from those seeds that the Africans brought over. It has only been said, or you'll find mostly that, oh, it's an Asian thing, it's an Asian thing. In some instances, you'll find that it was an Italian thing, but the origin point of rice in these countries came from Africa, not Asia. Asia's rice did eventually come here, but Africa. And it being braided into the women's hair and then planting it in their own gardens. That was number one. That was ground zero. And from there, rice became a whole thing. And then I did read that, eventually the rice from Asia did take over just because of the way it was made. And it was a little bit easier to handle and work with than African rice was. So this was just a little something that I found out that I thought was absolutely amazing and completely inspiring to know that even in down and out times, we will find a way. Oh, also okra was in there too. I'm not sure if I said okra, but okra was in there too. I know people have feelings about okra. I like okra. But okra was one of the seeds that was also brought over and was planted. Just a little bit of Black history, a piece of it for April. And I wanted to share that. Like I said, make sure you do go down to the description. Some of the books that I read are a little lengthy, 28 pages, depending on your attention span. They're not bad, they're not hard reads. It's a lot of information. And then also there's a video on the braiding technique down there as well. So please make sure you go down and check those things out just to get a little bit more information for yourself. And if you do know a little bit more than even what I shared, let me know in the comment sections. All right, this is a piece of Black American history, and I will see you in the next one.